Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. We'll just wait 1 or 2 minutes for more attendees to join before we start the session. Great. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Welcome to this guest lecture by VIIT in association with WOW. Thank you for joining this webinar on applied machine learning with industry use cases. Today, our speaker is Ms. Pankti Shah. She's an alumni of VIIT since 2016, and she's currently working at Cybase Software in machine learning and data science. She's also currently pursuing her MTech in data science engineering from BITS Pilani through the Work Integrated program. She's fond of training and has conducted training on Python and machine learning and data science. Ms. Pankti, I'd like to invite you now to begin the session.
Yeah, thanks, Ronak sir. So I'm turning on my video also. So hello everyone, good morning. Today I'll be taking applied machine learning webinar. So basically we look into basic concepts of machine learning and data science and then jump into the industry use cases where machine learning and data science is applied. So before starting the session, I would like to know how many of you know about machine learning, like, and how much. So we have our first poll right now. Ronak sir, can we enable the poll?
Yes, ma'am, poll is enabled.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, so I see that maximum number of participants have an idea about machine learning and few know about the concepts also. So just a minute, I'll start my screen share. We can end the poll, I think. Just a minute. Okay. So my screen is visible?
Yes, bro.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll start with understanding machine learning first. What is the need of machine learning? Machine learning is basically used to improve our decision making, to solve the complex problems and programs, whatever. Then to uncover patterns and trends in data. And why do we need that? We can do it manually also, right? But we know that in today's world we are generating huge amount of data through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Google, and whatnot. On YouTube, if we take example of YouTube, we daily upload lots of videos. There are lots of channels available there, and huge amount of data is there. Then on Facebook, we keep on posting our photos, status updates, videos, and etc. Google has, Google, on a lighter note, I can say that Google knows yourself better than you. They know that where you are going, what you want to buy, and what not. How they can give you so many recommendations. It's all through the machine learning. So to solve all these complex problems, we use machine learning. Now, what is machine learning? Basically, machine learning is art of making computers learn without explicitly programmed. So you can see in this image that there is some robo kind of a thing here. He is trying to understand the things from reading the book also, and trying to tune itself through this screwdriver also. So just a image though, but it's basically art of making, computers learn by themselves. You don't need to keep on training them all the time. And then how they learn? They learn by observing and by getting trained with the data that you give them as an input. Next is machine learning process. So as we saw in the last slide, machine can learn by observing and getting trained. It will learn different mapping functions also known as model. So when you give your data, it will train itself by observing the data, by understanding the patterns that the data has, and then by building a model. So what this model basically is just a mapping function. It can be as simple as y is equals to mx plus c, or can be any complex kind of a equation. Here y is of course your outcome, your result that you want to predict, and x, or there can be multiple x's also. So those are all your input data attributes. Now once you build the model, you need to see that what your machine has learned. To do that, you predict the thing, give the new data, test data, basic known as test data. You give that, and then you see whether the machine, your model is predicting right. That is done by checking accuracy and various other parameters like F-win score and confusion metrics and all those things. Just a minute. Okay. Next is types of machine learning. So there are basically three types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Now, what do you mean by supervised learning? It is the technique where we teach the machine by giving the labeled data. So what do you mean by labeled data? You give the input data, you also give the output. That if the data is like this, let's take an example. If my email has words like lottery or something like that, then it's a spam email. And if my email has some genuine words like, let's discuss this thing, let's have a meeting, let's do this or that, something like that, then it's a genuine mail. So that's a classic classification example though. In simpler terms, I can say that we all in the childhood, we all had a maths teacher who taught us 2 plus 2 equal to 4, right? And then after that asked us similar questions or same question when he thought that we have learned enough. So that is like supervised learning. We have a supervisor who teaches us, and then we test that whether we have whatever we have taught, is it reflecting on that particular model or no. Second type is unsupervised learning. So it involves using unlabeled data and allowing model to act on that information without any guidance. Okay, so it's just like a smart kid, learning on itself without even having some supervisor or something like that. So that's unsupervised learning. And reinforcement learning is something mixture of both these, supervised and unsupervised. It's also known as semi-supervised learning. It's basically used in AI-based games or something, or AI-based things. We'll not discuss much about this. We'll focus on the supervised and unsupervised now. So supervised has classification and regression. These two types. In classification, basically you have to predict yes or no, or whether the patient is having cancer or not having the cancer. Or in today's case, we'll say whether the patient is having COVID positive or he's COVID negative, something like that. And second one is regression, where we can say that I want to predict, I want to sell my house and I want to predict that what is the current best price that I can get. So to predict house price values, we can use regression algorithms. Second best example for regression can be that you bought a new car but you are not happy with it. You want to sell it off. So if you go and ask your friends that boss, I bought this car for 10 lakh rupees. Now I want to sell it and I haven't used it much also. So I'll sell it for 9 lakh. But then that's not the case. It depends on multiple factors, and you will require to apply some algorithm. So basically regression algorithm helps there to predict the price of your car, and that is the best price that you can get. Second is now next we'll look into unsupervised learning. So in unsupervised learning, this is the clustering. Clustering is one type of unsupervised learning where you want to, let's say, group employees of a company based on different parameters, and then give them certain trainings. So such kind of thing, you don't have any label there. Like there are different parameters, whether the employee is good at technical skills, whether the employee is good at communication skills, or whether the employee has good interpersonal skills. Can he have team bonding capabilities, or he doesn't have it? There are lots of parameters involved when a company wants to give training to its employees. They can use this clustering algorithm. It has multiple algorithms there, like KNN or K-means or something like that. And then they can give the group numbers to their employees, and then all those groups, for each and individual group, they can target different trainings there. Next is association rule mining. So association rule mining is basically when you visit DMart or Reliance, let's say, and then you see that when you buy sugar, tea is kept exactly there in the second rack, or and then bread is also there. All those things are in vicinity. It's not like you have to rush at one place to take the sugar, then go to some other place to take the tea leaves, and go to some other place to take the bread. It's always together, because when a person wants to buy tea and sugar together, it's likely that he wants to make tea, and with tea bread goes well. So that is kind of a pattern. Or if you want to buy, let's say, if you go and buy some shirt or something like that, then trousers are there itself, like just besides it. It's not like in one section shirts are there, and in some other section, somewhere in the other floor, you have trousers kept. It is always a pattern. So basically, based on those patterns, based on those rules that are discovered using association rule mining, the supermarkets arrange their items. That this is the classic example, also known as market basket analysis. Now, next is just a minute, my machine is a bit slow. Sorry. Okay, so now as we have got a fair idea of machine learning, I think you guys can think about these different use cases. Like, how does Netflix recommend you movies? That once you see an action movie, next time it will recommend you some other action movie. Or if you're fond of watching comedy movies, then it will show you the comedy movies and comedy series. So how does this thing happen? Basically, Netflix has some recommender system inbuilt there. and that recommender system uses machine learning and data science to give you the recommendation. Similarly, Facebook recommends you people you may know, like friends of friends or something like that, or you both are working at the same workplace, or you both are from same college. So then you might be knowing this person. Facebook has all this information, and it uses graphs and all those things, and it recommends you people you may know. Then how Amazon Alexa works? Again, it uses artificial intelligence, and once you talk with Alexa, it will convert your voice to some text or something like that, and then it will be processed. Natural language processing will come into the picture. Some AI will come into the picture. Machine learning, all those terms are interrelated. So all those things will come into the picture, and Alexa will work accordingly. So next, can we have second poll there, answer? I want to know. I want to know that how much you guys know about data science. Guys, please vote ASAP so we can continue. Okay, so on an average, everybody has some idea about data science. We can end the poll. Okay, thanks. Yeah. So we'll now talk about data science, just like we talked about, spoke about machine learning. Similarly, we have a brief introduction of data science. So by definition, data science is an interdisciplinary field that uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems to extract knowledge and insight from data in various forms. So let's not get afraid by looking at all these big words like scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and whatnot. It's very simple that data science plays with data for better decisions, to understand recent trends, to define goals, and the whole process is data driven. Now, what is the process of data science? Basically, when you want to start doing something, you understand, okay, I want to analyze my data, and then I want to model it, and I want to predict the things, all those things. So the starting step is always getting the data. There is lots of raw data available on the net. You can download it from various download, or if it's a customer data, then of course customer will give you the data in some format, but it's very raw. So getting data is like from multiple sources, from cloud, from your RDBMS, from other database management systems and all those things. You get the data, then you explore the data. Here statistics comes into the picture. Exploring the data, what is the mean? Your data will have multiple attributes. So let's take an example of housing price prediction. It will have multiple attributes like how many number of bedrooms are there, what is the floor size, floor size, I mean to say is square feet of your house, then on which floor it is, what amenities it has, is it a garden facing thing, is it a pool facing house, multiple attributes are there. So to explore this kind of data, you will use multiple statistical approaches. You can find out mean of, on an average, the houses, the data that I have, all the houses on an average have 2 BHK, let's say. So that's a mean thing. mean value. Then it can have median, it can have correlation, like how my house price is related with number of rooms. So we all know that it is very much correlated. Based on number of rooms, your house price will increase. So to find such patterns, you have to do data exploration. Next is modeling data. Now, in this modeling data, you have machine learning coming in picture. Now, once you have all your data, you cleaned and you had all the data here, you explored the data in the explore data part. Then when you come on the modeling data part, you understand what sort of a problem is there. I mean, is to be solved. Now, in case of house price prediction, it's a regression problem. So you will apply a regression algorithm in this step, and then you will visualize the results. Once you visualize the results, you will understand whether your results are making sense or no, what sort of patterns are there, all those things. You can simulate the results on some new data and check whether how nicely it is giving you the predictions and all. And once you are confident enough that your model is working fine, you can use all those results for different business application. It can be you want to deploy the model on the cloud so that others can use your model to predict their house prices. It can be you just want to show the visualization part to the let's say to some construction company CEO. You just want to show that in this location, having these many rooms and having these all amenities, your house price will be maximum. So you want to show such kind of results, then you can use it in such business applications. So this is whole process of data science. Uh, Data science and machine learning are huge, are widely spread among different domains. Some of the examples are healthcare domain. So in healthcare domain, there is very this on Kaggle. If you see, you have many use cases here. There's one PIMA diabetes use case available. There is breast cancer use case available. In our case, we can say that currently the COVID-19 thing. So if you're having fever and if you have certain other symptoms, then there's a possibility of having COVID-19 positive thing. So such kind of things, such kind of problems can fall in the healthcare domain. Then finance domain. In finance domain, let's say a bank wants to know whether giving a credit card to some person is okay, or he'll do some fraud. So in such cases, they'll use some classification problem, some classification algorithm to understand whether the credit card, whether the person will be defaulter or he'll pay all his dues on time based on different attributes like what is his salary, what is his uh, expenditure things, and what all other properties the person has based on that. Next is sports domain. So we'll talk about it in a while on the sports domain. I have my one use case in this domain. Then next is retail domain. So in retail domain, basically what all items I should have in stock in a particular season. Let's say it's Diwali time. So then the retail market, supermarkets should have like ghee and sugar and all those things in stock because people are going to make sweets at that time. So this is very simple example. We all can tell this by intuition, but there are multiple complex problems also which can be solved in this retail domain using machine learning and data science. Next is manufacturing domain. So manufacturing domain again, like in which month more sale is happening, so we manufacture more. Or anomaly detection is also one of the area where manufacturing domain which manufacturing domain uses. So in case of mechanical engineering, or I mean mechanical industries, you will find this kind of thing. Sorry. Yeah. And next is travel and hospitality. So in this case, cross-sell and upsell is one of the use case which can be seen in the travel and hospitality domain. Basically, when you book a ticket, let's say you said that you are two adults and two children, and you want to have a deluxe room, then that you are coming for a leisure or no, such kind of information can be taken by the user through the system, and you can predict that this person is coming for leisure with the family. So, and he also has children with him, so why not to give him a cross sell kind of an option, that do you want to have children play area, you want to attend some circus in that, but in around vicinity, like let's say you're going in Europe, and there is some famous circus available there. So then the hotel industry will recommend you that, sir, can you do you want to also visit this particular thing, because you have children with you, they'll enjoy this thing. So this because thing is just underlying. He doesn't have to tell that thing, but such kind of predictions can be done using machine learning. You can have clustering algorithms in place for such kind of use case. Now, next is, as I told you, that our first case study is in uh, sports domain. So this is basically cricket league predictions, IPL predictions, and I myself have worked on this, so I can talk about it nicely. Now, what we have to, in IPL prediction, basically the problem statement was auction price predictions. So when the auction thing happens, you see that some players get lots of price, and some players have very less price, like they got sold for just 1 crore, 2 crore, while others got sold for 5, 6, 10 crores or 12 crores also, in case of KL Rahul last time, or somewhere down the line 2, 3 years back. So this is one use case. Second use case is like helping the management of the team to take the decisions for which player to buy based on all these capabilities. And then the team has some budget, the management has some budget, that I have 100 crores and I have to spend this 100 crores to buy 15, 16 players. Then which are the best players that you can accommodate based on their price for your team, is something which we predicted. Second is team formation based on opponent team. So now let's say we have Chennai Super Kings versus Mumbai Indians. Then Mumbai Mumbai Indians team is having team formation is done, and we get to know that all these players are playing from that team. Then which players should we put on the ground so that winning probability for our team is more? In this case, Chennai Super Kings. Now how this thing is, how this team formation thing comes up. So how you, what all attributes you should consider. You should consider whether team is playing in the home ground or no. Then what is the performance of your team at that particular ground, what is the performance of opponent team at that particular ground. Then strike rate and economy rates of all your players. So if you put this 11 players on the ground, then your team can make, let's say, 300 runs. Now how this 300 runs came in the picture? So using all the strike rate and economy rate, you can calculate that on an average is like, based on all these features, we think that 300 is what the target will be. So accordingly, if you want to modify the things, you can just shuffle your players here and there and check out those kind of things. So basically, we had used a statistical approach there, giving more weight to the recent runs made, or recently wickets taken, than the overall values. Like let's say Yuvraj Singh. Yuvraj Singh is a great player. Okay, but in last 2 3 IPLs, if we see his performance is not so great. So why to give him more value? In place of that, let's say give more value to KL Rahul because KL Rahul is performing. So we gave more weightage to parameters of KL Rahul than the weightage to the Yuvraj Singh's parameters. So based on all the data that we have, we can use this weighted average thing and different other statistical approaches. Now we'll see that how we extracted data. So basically, we have different websites like ESPN and Cricinfo and all those things. Because of course, where we get the data otherwise, if we want to have real-time data or latest data, then these are the sites from where we get the data. So this is just a snapshot of the data that we captured through the web from the web. And what all challenges we had was like data, as I told you, that it has various sources, like ESPN has its own format, Cricinfo has its own format, and it is basically in raw form, GAML form or JSON format. Then it requires lots of cleaning. So all this lots of cleaning comes in under data pre-processing part, that you need to have data, like the raw data gets converted to the format that you want. Like let's say I took JSON format data from ESPN and I want to put it in database. Now database means tables, different columns and rows and all those things. So how do I convert JSON format to table format? That's my first step. That's my data pre-processing. Feature engineering. Feature engineering is very important step in case of any machine learning algorithm, in case of any machine learning algorithm application use cases, because whenever you get some data, it's not always all the columns are useful to you. Might be using 2 3 columns, you derive new 2 3 columns. Like let's say I want to have age of the player, then I just have birth date of the player. Now birth date doesn't make sense. I use birth date with my current system date and find out the age of that player. Now based on age of the player, his performance will matter. So birth date of the player is not useful, but age of the player is useful. This is very simple example. We had to have lots of more features derived through feature engineering step. Next is exploring data. So data exploration requires all these things. We didn't use all these things in this IPL thing, but it requires all these things. Statistics, where mean, median, mode, quantile, percentile, correlation, all this come under statistics. These are very simple terms. Statistics itself has lots of things. It's a whole different subject. Similarly, calculus, you guys must be knowing about derivatives and integrations that we learned in 12th standard, or might be you must be learning in right now also in M1, M2 or something like that. Uh, then probabilities. So conditional probability, posterior prior probability basically, and Bayes theorem. These are very important terminologies in probability. Next is linear algebra. So linear algebra has matrices, vectors, different linear systems, optimization techniques. All those things comes under linear algebra. Visualization methods. This is very powerful thing to explore data, because you can actually create graphs, histograms, box plots, and all those scatter plots, all those things to explore your data, that how my data is trending. Like if you want to see that something, let's say age of the player and the runs he is making or the wickets he is taking, then you can plot age versus the runs, and you can see that how it is making sense, what sort of pattern is coming up then. So this all comes under explore data. Next is visualization. So as I told you that visualization is very important. Now, if you see that this team 1 has maximum number of toss wins, and it also has maximum, here this team 1 is also the match winner for maximum number of times. If you see team 2, then team 2 is also having similar kind of a trend. Not after one, but then it also has similar kind of a trend. So if you consider top 5 teams here, and if you consider top 5 teams here, so out of 5, 4 teams are having similar sort of a trend, that they are winning the toss, so then they are winning the match also. This is an important pattern that we understood from our data. Okay, so now next is wealth management case study. Here we'll discuss about customer attrition. So basically, wealth management system, it's not like banking system. Okay, what is it now? If you have to, if I have to give you a very simple example, then it is like having investment banking sort of a thing, and you want to see that whether your customers will stay with you or they leave your organization. That is customer attrition. Now, in this use case, we had to have first step, of course, it's extracting data. So, what is extracting data? We had to have. Sorry, sorry. Okay, extract data. So, on the customer side, we have customer database, customer database basically, and employee database. And these two databases are also derived from different databases. It could be like, for Pune, they have a different database. For Mumbai, they have a different database. For Ahmedabad, they have different database. So all these databases somehow got collated to customer database, one database named as customer database. Second can similarly employee database. Employees certain details like personal details like their address, their mobile number, and all those things are stored in one database. And second thing is uh, their their organization level data. So there are these two different databases, let's say. All these databases got collated here, and then we pull all both these databases data in a central database at our end. Okay, so this block is customers data, customers environment, and this bigger block is our organization's environment, let's say. So we pull it in a central database, and then what all data is required to model the database, we use, we put them, we put that in model database. And what all data we'll require to use in the APIs, we kept it in API database. So this API database has all the things which will be shown on the UI later, basically. So this is a huge database system. It's a challenge to manage the whole database system, and having distributed things. Big data also comes in the picture here. So what are challenges? Data is, as I told you, that it can be distributed in multiple sources. It can have feature engineering based on, we had to have some business logic also kept in it. Like let's say customer has not contacted you or not replied to your emails or messages since last 6 months. Then it's mostly like the customer has left the organization. He's not going to come back to you now, or he's just not active, he's passive right now. So how to make him active again? You want to take certain actions on that sort of a thing. Like you want to have your relationship managers to focus more on such customers who are whose probability is most likely, they have lost all those customers, they have gone, kind of a thing. So for such kind of a thing, compute label comes in. Compute label was one of the module sort of a thing, we can say, where we'll use business logic rules, like a customer has been not active since last 6 months, or he has some, his budget or his balances. There are certain terms like AUC and all those kind of terms are there in the wealth management system. So that balance is less than certain amount. So the compute label will be labeled as 0. Otherwise, it will be labeled as 1. So now 0 means that this customer has almost left the organization. So it's better you focus more and more on those customers and try to get them back, because since 6 months they have not approached you for any investments or something like that. So that means that either they have got some other account somewhere else, or else they're having some other issues. So try to concentrate on them. Then also you need to have periodic refresh of your database, like you need to continuously refresh your database. So this is also a huge task, because the data is distributed in different multiple sources. So Spark and all those things, clustering and all cluster systems comes into the was coming into the picture in this use case. Next is model data. So now once you have all the data available through, we saw how we extracted and how we are maintaining the data in database. Your question is, will customer leave or stay? So it's a classification problem, 0 or 1 kind of a thing. So you build a model based on that, fit the model using your data. So basically you have training data, testing data, and validation data there. So do fit the model and fit the model on training data. Sorry, fit the model on the training data and validate it using the testing data. In our case, we used Naive-Bayes algorithm. It's a classification algorithm based on probability. So we used that to predict customer attrition. Now, next is I'll talk about natural language processing use cases. So, natural language processing is also a branch of machine learning or AI, I can say. It has multiple use cases like sentiment analysis. You all must be knowing about it mostly. That Twitter has, Twitter's data is basically used to uh, understand the sentiments of those Twitters. Uh, I mean to say that people in research mode try to use Twitter's data to understand the sentiment analysis thing. Second example for sentiment analysis can be email analysis. So basically in an organization, if you're sending mails to customer and customer is sending you the mails, then what sort of sentiments are there in both the mails? Also within the employees, let's say I have some issues with my teammates, then it might happen that my email is also showing that sort of a thing. My emails are in negative sentiments. I'm using negative sentiments there. I'm being rude on emails as well. So or it can be vice versa thing. Also, if customer is very happy with me, so customer might be sending me very positive sentiment emails. So all these things can be used for different things. Different things. This is just one step sentiment analysis. Second is named entity recognition. So then same, if we take same example of email analysis, I'm using certain names in my email body. Let's say I'm saying that hi, this is Pankti, and I'm taking few more names in there, and then I'm saying that I stay in Pune. So named entity recognition, what does it do is it tags Pankti as a name, as a person, Pune as a location. I'm working at Cybit Software, so Cybit Software as an organization. So this named entity recognition module does that. Then the very complex thing, but very hot topic in today's world is chatbots. So we see that there are multiple chatbots on multiple sites, like how can I help you, and then you chat with them, and maximum time your queries get solved through that chatbot itself. So it's a neural network based application, but also it has natural language processing, because what all things you talk, it's natural language, right? In English, it can have different languages support also, like French or German or anything else like that. So these are some use cases that I have worked on. Currently, I'm working on chatbots, where I'm using Rasa framework. Before that, I've explored PyTorch, Keras, and all those libraries, which help which helps to create chatbots, TensorFlow, and all those things. But Rasa is a very good framework, so I'm kind of exploring it right now currently in the company. Now, natural language processing has very basic few steps that are common everywhere. I mean, your data, your whatever text you are using for processing, it gets tokenized first. So tokenization is like, here in this sentence, natural language processing use cases based on byte space. So this is the byte space, right? We have one, two, three, four byte space and 5 words. So 5 tokens will be generated. One will be natural, second will be language, processing, use, cases. 5 tokens. Then stemming. Stemming is basically, you stem your word. Now, example is this processing. So processing, this if we remove ing, the meaning won't change, right? Uh, so processed, processing, this kind of words gets converted to process in this stemming step. Next is lemmatization. So lemmatization is basically having synonyms, not even synonyms, but for an example, I say I ran 5 kilometers. I am running 5 kilometers. I will run 5 kilometers. So ran, running, and run. All these 3 words fall under same lemma, run, basically. This is lemmatization. And pause tagging is basically part of speech tagging. So when I say I am running, let's say. So running is a verb, right? So it will get tagged as verb. Then my name is Pankti. So Pankti is a proper noun. So it will get tagged as proper noun. These sort of things happen in part of speech tagging. So this is all about natural language processing use cases. Now, next, as we wanted, next is like if we want to get deeper into machine learning and data science, then we must know the skills like linear algebra, statistics, calculus, databases, programming knowledge, preferably of Python or R. Uh, People widely use Python nowadays. R is more like for mathematical and statistical things. Then added advantage as like if you know about big data systems like Spark or Hadoop or something like that, that's an added advantage to it. You should know about the cloud platforms. At least one of the cloud platform you should be aware of, like AWS. Amazon's AWS is there. Then Azure, Microsoft Azure is there, or Google Cloud Platform. So these are the cloud platforms. Any of one would work. They are almost like similar sort of things, or having a bit of difference. And next is DevOps. So DevOps is basically a very important step when it comes to deploying your solutions uh, on in the production. So these days a new terminology has also come up. It is also known as DataOps. DataOps. So data, basically data science and DevOps comes together as DataOps. So you can Google and you can go and check what it is and can try to learn that thing also. So yeah, that's it from my side. Just a minute now. I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay. So
Thank you, Pankti. It was a great session. I'd like to invite Professor Pawan to handle the Q&A.
Pankti,
Yeah, yes, sir.
that was a great session. We have some questions. Uh, one is from the person, Dr. Yogesh Deshpande sir.
Yes.
The question is, what programming languages we need to master for data science or data mining?
So we need to master Python, I would suggest, and also if we can do R, that would be a great thing. These two programming languages will be very helpful in data science and data mining.
Okay. The next question is from Janvi. What is the difference between data analysis and data science?
So basically, data analysis is a part of data science itself. You get the data, you explore the data, and you come up with the visualizations and look into the patterns. That's it. That's data analysis. You tell that your data is telling these things. While data science also includes modeling of the data and predicting future and all those things. Like what would if my historical data is this way, then what would be my future predictions basically.
Okay. I think that. Okay. The next question is from Amit. Uh, what are the differences between scikit-learn and TensorFlow library, and which one is better to use for ML implementation?
So both are important. Scikit-learn basically has all the algorithms like classification, regression, all those algorithms it has. But when it comes to deep learning part, then you need to use TensorFlow or Keras or PyTorch or all those libraries basically.
Okay. The next question is related to pursuing a course. It's from Tanmay Desai. Uh, it says, I want to pursue my master's in such a course which will include both embedded systems and deep learning. Can you suggest me some course?
I'm not sure about embedded systems. Deep learning, yes, you have masters in, I mean, I'm doing masters in data science right now. So it also has a deep learning as a subject, but I'm not sure about embedded systems.
Okay, there is one more question from Dr. Yogesh Deshpande sir. Have you worked on an IoT-based predictive maintenance project? And if so, kindly discuss.
No, I haven't worked on IoT.
Fine. Again, we have a question from Ruchi Joshi. What is the difference between data analysis and visualization? How to get into data analysis?
It's almost same. There's not much difference because data analysis has visualization as one of its part. So it's almost same. You can look into different courses on Coursera or Udemy or something for getting into data analysis, or you can take data from Kaggle and you can apply visualization methods there. Python has different libraries like matplotlib or Seaborn, so you can use those libraries to visualize data basically. Or else you can look into the tools like Tableau or ClickView, Power BI. SSRS is also a very basic tool from Microsoft Stack, so you can use that also to uh, for visualization basically.
Okay, the next is from Karthik. Which platform will be the best to learn Python and R programming?
So you can check out some courses on Udemy. I think there are some courses from Python A to Z or something like that. So you can do that, and of course, self learning is a lot involved in this thing. And few data science, if you want to do something in data science and Python, then you can use data camp or data quest also. These are some sites which provide you good material on data science plus Python or data science plus R.
Okay, we have a question from Professor Devta Anekar. Which framework should be used for chatbot development? How will it be useful in healthcare?
Okay, so currently I'm still exploring, but according to me, I saw Keras, I saw PyTorch. It has lots of complex things involved there. While Rasa is a framework, it's a very good framework. It provides you very basic chatbot when you first install those things, and then you can provide training data. So in Rasa, you need to have your training data. I mean, you have to define your training data basically. There are multiple files available like intents, and also you need to say that okay, saying hi, hello, how are you, all these fall under category greet intent basically. This is just an example. So such intents you need to define. Then you need to define your stories, that my chatbot will have such stories. Like if I say hi, then chatbot will say hi. So greet intent, then you need to utter greet, like you have to, your chatbot has to utter greet. Then might be the user is asking for a nearby hospital, let's say. So I want to visit a hospital. That's what user has entered. So the intent of that sentence is basically that uh, search basically search provider or something like that, some intent. You can define the name, and then what do you want to give the response to it, like give me your location. That could be the next question, because he wants to visit the hospital. So you want to look into your database, or you want to look into some API to hit that, and say that at this location this is the nearest hospital. So if we say I'm at Pune station, then the chatbot can hit that API or look into the database and say that the nearby hospital is Ruby All Clinic. To visit this hospital. So this is very naive example for healthcare thing. It can have multiple things. It can also, like in today's world, like as we are in lockdown and all those things, clinical chatbots are also available. People have developed it, where you say that you talk with your, like kind of you talk with your doctor only, but then actually doctor is not available that side. It's a chatbot, and you say that I'm having these this things, like I'm having fever and I'm having cold. Then the chatbot can give you that, okay, try taking crocin and something like that. That can be something like that. Basically it can give you some prescriptions also based on very basic things. And if it feels like it requires doctor's involvement, then some trigger might happen, and then doctor gets the notification or something like that, and he can get into the conversation. Something like that can be made.
I think that's
Does
that's the great answer for. Okay, we have one more question from Professor Snehal Rathi. If data set is big enough and cloud space or GPU is not available, then is there any way to train machine learning models?
then you will have to have batches of data going in your machine, and you can train that way, might be. Because if you cannot increase your space or those storage kind of things, then you need to have some way that you are cutting your data and sending it to the model. But then that might affect your model, because how you are making the chunk size and how you are making the batches, that will also matter in that case.
Okay, question from Ruchi. We need to do course for getting into analysis or any other? Do we need to do the course?
um, Certifications would definitely help, because now in today IT companies, how would they trust you if you say that you know data analysis, if you don't have a certificate? As a fresher or as something, you should have some certification or something like that, so that you can show that you have done something. Or even maintaining a GitHub repo could help, I think. If you are doing something like you have made certain projects in data analysis and data science, just upload them on your GitHub repo, and you can put that in your CV to show people that you have done something.
Okay, we'll take this last question, which is from our student Shardul Nazirkar, and I can answer this question also, but I'll request Pankti to answer this. Can we contact you for any queries or advices in the future?
Yeah, sure. You can contact me. So, do you want me to share my mail ID or something like that? I'm not sure where to type in. I can type that.
Uh, just because he is a student from IT department, I can share all your details, and I'm sure that you will all the students from IT department, if they need help in machine learning or data science, they can contact you,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yes,
definitely sure that
definitely.
you'll help them. Okay, with this,
Yeah, sure.
I must say that this was a very learning session for all of us, and the question and answer session was very interesting. So on behalf of VIIT Alumni Association, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Ms. Pankti for giving an excellent coverage of machine learning, data science, and the different scenarios where we can use the machine learning and the different use cases. Thank you, Pankti. We would like to place and record sorry, our hearty thanks to WOW for their support and organizing this webinar. Thank you, Ronak, and thank you, WOW. Finally, I thank all the participants for showing interest in learning from the industry experts, and do share your feedback and watch out for more knowledgeable webinars from VIIT Alumni Association. There are many more webinars in the future, and thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and have a good day. Thank you, Pankti.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks so much.
Over to you, Ronak.
All right. Thank you so much, Pankti. Thank you so much, Pawan sir. It was a great session. If Subhash sir is also online, would you like to say words of thanks, sir?
I think
Am
he
I
is not
audible?
online.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all the participants. Thank you so much, Vauge sir. Thank you, Pankti, for a wonderful session. And thank you, Ronak and team, for the supporting, giving the technical support for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, let's now end the session. Have a good Sunday, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Sunday, everyone.